The following is a TV series based on a real-life murder case, so we will be using humor sparingly. Be forewarned that the material ahead can be triggering. Lyle and Erik Menendez are on their way to their parents' memorial service, yet they act cool and chill inside the limousine. Lyle even talks about business and making it big someday. However, when Erik sees his brother wearing their dad's shoes, he starts crying. Lyle reminds him that their parents will be proud of them. Then he orders the driver to drop them off where the crowd is. As soon as they get out of the car, cameras flash and they walk through the sea of reporters. The venue is packed with people. During his speech, Erik keeps crying while Lyle reads a prepared speech. He mentions that his father has everything in life and that he, as his son, is ready to take over. To everyone's surprise, he ends his speech by playing a song dedicated to his parents, making it awkward AF. Despite Erik trying to live a normal life, he still cries every time he thinks about his parents. His nightmares are constant, so he finally calls his therapist, Dr. Oziel, for an appointment. It's Halloween and Lyle comes home with his girlfriend, Jamie. Erik lies about going out to run some errands, then he heads to Dr. Oziel's office. When he arrives, he ensures that their conversation is not recorded. Meanwhile, Lyle is busy giving candies to kids while he's dressed up as Tom Cruise. Erik mentions writing a book about his father's achievements and Jose's dream of becoming a senator someday. Then he reveals that Jose had been very hard on him and Lyle, which is why they killed him. Dr. Oziel is shocked when he hears the confession. Erik admits the plan really started after he saw the movie, Billionaire Boys Club, where the kids killed their rich parents. He showed the movie to his brother, and they started casually talking about the killing. Erik wanted to do it soon before they changed their minds, but Lyle wanted a carefully laid plan. Dr. Oziel can't believe the brothers did it because of a movie. Erik remembers his father scolding him and throwing a plate on the wall when he was angry. However, when asked if Jose was physically abusive, he just describes him as very domineering. Erik says their mother was so addicted to Jose, drinking and taking pills after discovering his affair. She was also suicidal, so they killed her to put her out of her misery. Erik reveals one defining moment. Both his parents were arguing with Lyle after he got kicked out of Princeton. Kitty got involved when Lyle said he wanted to get married. They wouldn't allow him, but Lyle didn't back down. During the fight, Kitty snatched Lyle's wig, shocking everyone. Lyle said his father made him wear it. Erik idolized his brother so much so he felt sorry for him. He saw the movie after that and decided they were going to do it. They went to a gun store in West LA and Orange County, but only got to buy shotguns in San Diego, where Erik used his fake ID. They got their alibi set up with Lyle's friend, Perry Berman. When everything was set, the two drove home in the middle of the night. Lyle told Erik to shoot first so he won't change his mind. They said their I love yous to each other. Then they walked into the room where their parents were watching TV. Jose got caught off guard, but Erik shot him first. He fell back on the couch and Erik just kept shooting him. Then he turned to shoot his mother, her hands being shot off. Lyle even moved around to shoot at close range. He shot his father in the head, literally blowing his brains out. Lyle even went back to finish off Kitty, who was still moving. They picked up the shells and changed into clean clothes. Then they drove up Coldwater to bury their guns. Afterward, they headed to the theaters to watch Batman. Lyle argued with the attendant when she refused to sell him a $9.50 screening ticket because it was already $10.40. So the two bought the $10.55 tickets but realized they were useless. So they just left and went to Taste of LA. Erik was scared, but Lyle was calm, saying out loud that they've been there for 4 hours already. They returned home only to discover that no one else was there to find the bodies. So they went inside and called 911. Erik insists that despite killing his parents, he's not a bad person. He is shaking and crying, saying that he keeps having nightmares where he watches his parents die over and over again. The only time it stops is when he finally kills himself. Dr. Oziel thinks it's best if they ask Lyle to come to his office. Dr. Oziel makes an excuse about buying coffee, then dashes out and calls his mistress Judalon, revealing that Erik had just admitted to the murder. He's worried about his life, so he wants Judalon to come over to be a witness in case something happens. On his way to the doctor's office, Lyle hallucinates and sees some people dressed as his entire family on the night of the murder. He sees Judalon and assumes she's just another patient. Lyle is angry, and he still keeps saying the mafia did it, but Erik reveals that he already told everything to Dr. Oziel. Erik was afraid he was going to end himself. Judalon gets too close, but luckily for her, she's already on her way out when Lyle opens the door. He confronts the doctor, but Dr. Oziel promises that his office is soundproof. Lyle keeps shouting as Erik keeps crying. Erik explains that there's no point in denying. He trusts that Dr. Oziel will honor the patient-doctor confidentiality. Dr. Oziel offers to be the brothers' lifeline. He says he can tell the court that the brothers got scared because of their controlling father. It's going to look like a crime of passion instead of something premeditated. When Dr. Oziel says he's not going to tell anyone what they talked about, the brothers leave the office. Erik apologizes for what he did, but Lyle comforts him, saying all they have to do is kill the doctor. On the night of the murders, Lyle made the call to the emergency hotline. They were both in tears by the time the authorities arrived. Lyle said there was smoke inside and they didn't see anyone. He added that his father had to deal with some shady people over the years because he was a very powerful businessman. Then Erik screamed that it was the mafia who did it. During the initial investigation, Detective Zoller and Linehan discovered the time of death to be 10 p.m., and Lyle's 911 call was at 11:47. Linehan thought it was a sloppy work for a mob hit and that the mob would have let Kitty live. The brothers gave their statement at the station. Meanwhile, Detective Zoller saw the window blown out. This meant the room couldn't be filled with smoke 2 hours after the murders, just like what Lyle said. When the brothers returned home, they realized that the box of bullets was still at the trunk of their car. Lyle lied to the officer, saying Detective Zoller had given him permission to get his tennis bag. Then very quickly, he hid inside the bag whatever evidence was left. Because Jose Menendez was the CEO of Live Entertainment, his colleague Peter Hoffman thinks it's best to give him only the best send-off. When Peter mentions inheritance, Lyle and Erik remember the conversation they had with their parents before. Jose and Kitty provided for their sons, so they were disappointed that they still robbed other people's houses. To teach them a lesson, Jose had them removed from his will. Peter has the memorial service arranged and offers to provide the brothers their own bodyguards and a limousine. Lyle asks for another limousine and a couple of assistants to run errands for them. However, he doesn't get all of that since it's out of budget. The brothers are relieved to hear that the police now have a lead, a porn producer. With no signs leading to them, they are much more confident. They even ask to stay in Hotel Bel Air for some time. As soon as they move, Lyle starts living more luxuriously, insisting they should demand more out of life. Then, he kisses his brother on the lips. The brothers start spending their father's money, shopping expensive clothes and luxury watches. They throw parties and get high. But even the guests raise eyebrows when the brothers suddenly start dancing too close. The authorities are running out of time. They still don't have a suspect in custody. They know that the longer the case remains unsolved, the more incompetent they look. Because of the wild spending, the boys are warned that they should tone it down a little. Lyle says they are just distracting themselves to forget the death of their parents. So the lawyer says he'll try to accommodate the boys' spending. Lyle knows they have to get their hands on the will. They find the safe, but they get the combination wrong. So Erik calls his friend Billy, whose father is a probate attorney. However, Mr. Wright refuses to help them without the permission of the executor of the estate. He also asks the boys to leave the safe in his house, so Erik stays behind to look after the safe while Lyle goes on a date. The next day, Carlos Baralt, the boy's uncle and the executor of the estate, arrives. He's present when the safe is opened. Lyle insists he goes in first, saying he wants to remove any photos of his father's women in the safe to save his mother from any humiliation. Carlos doesn't argue anymore. To everyone's surprise, the will is not in the safe. Soon, a housemaid discovers the will in a closet, and she hands it to Lyle. Erik is surprised that their parents left everything to them. When Carlos finally reads it, it says that Jose's leaving everything to his wife, and upon her death, all his assets will be split evenly between his two sons. During the funeral service, Lyle reads a letter from his father. Not long after they receive their inheritance, Lyle starts spending his money on investments and buying expensive properties. Meanwhile, Erik starts modeling. 2 months later, Erik says he doesn't want to kill Dr. Oziel. He admits he even feels worse after finding out they've inherited everything. Lyle sympathizes with his brother, saying they don't really have to kill Dr. Oziel, but they have to keep him close. Lyle says, "I love you" to Erik, adding that he'll always protect him. Meanwhile, Dr. Oziel tells Judilon that he'll take his notes of Erik's confession and put them in a safety deposit box. Then he'll give the key to her. If something happens to him, she has to call his attorney. Judilon is paranoid the boys may go after her since she was a witness to their confession. She asks to move in with him. Because he's married, Judilon can't really move in with him. She is a past patient of his and has manic episodes. She gets mad. So Dr. Oziel finally gives his permission to let her stay in their guest house. The detectives have 3 theories. 1. The Menendez couple was killed by the mafia. 2. they were killed by a cartel. 3, they were killed by a San Fernando gang. But the theories don't really add up. The investigations show there were no signs of forced entry or any struggle according to forensic evidence. They believe the couple knew their killers. The brothers' avoidance of talking to the police unless it's through an attorney only adds to their suspicions. They also didn't check the brothers' hands for gunshot residue the night of the murders. One day they receive a message from Eric's best friend, Craig. Craig said him and Eric wrote a screenplay in the past about killing parents. During a therapy session, Lyle gets mad when he finds out that Eric wrote a screenplay about killing their parents. The topic quickly changes when Dr. Oziel reveals he put his notes of their therapy session in several safety deposit boxes. That's his leverage, so the boys won't hurt him. He even goes as far as suggesting they should record their next sessions. Craig shows up at the station, saying Eric admitted to killing his parents. However, his statement can only be considered as a hearsay and doesn't even meet the requirement they need for an arrest warrant. So the detectives ask him to meet up with Eric. The detectives wait for Eric to confess, but he talks about his parents as if he's never even thought about killing them. Craig talks about the screenplay they wrote, insinuating that it's based on what happened in real life. Eric acts surprised, asking him to drop the topic. However, with the detectives listening, Craig pushes the conversation and talks about Eric admitting to the crime before. Eric says he didn't kill his parents and that it's impossible for Lyle to be the killer because they were together that day. He finds out that the police have contacted Craig, so at the end of the night, the detectives still get nothing. On their next session, Dr. Oziel finally uses a tape recorder. He asks why Kitty also had to die. They say it's not about the money and they were doing their mother a kindness. They thought that since they killed her husband, they should kill her too. Before they leave, the doctor hands them a business card and asks them to be partners in business by a form of investment. However, Lyle throws it as soon as they get out. When the doctor finds out that Judalon has been talking to his kids about replacing their mother, he gets furious. He starts packing her things, saying that he'll never leave his wife for her, then kicks her out. Dr. Oziel warns her not to tell anyone about the Menendez case, especially not the tapes. But Judalon meets up with Detective Zoller the first chance she gets to tell them everything. What do you guys think of this series so far? There's definitely more to it than just two evil sons killing their parents and wanting inheritance. The story gets darker. Should we cover more?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.